Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. Today's video sees me moving away from my typical review-centered content because, I don't know, I thought I could benefit from a nice little diversion. And the diversion in question is browsing the rating queue hashtag on Twitter. These questions are up to date as of the date of this video's filming, which is the 4th of March 2023. And yes, I am using the European system instead of the American system because, I'm European. I'm just gonna put 15 minutes on the clock and go through all of the questions that show up when looking up the writing queue hashtag, or when looking the writing queue hashtag as of right now. Let's see. These are the top questions, so not the newest. There might be newer ones, but these are the questions that are deemed most relevant by Twitter's algorithm, regardless of how it works. Anyway, we got 15 minutes on the clock. Start. The first question comes from G.E. Cole, aka @DailyWriterQ. How would your MC make it clear that they don't like someone without saying it? Well, Martha would either turn away or try to block whoever's trying to get to her, if she were to be that evasive. But generally, she'll just straight up say, "I'm not interested in you." And Elizabeth might say something like, "You're not my type," and Marius might bring up that he's asexual, so any kind of interest is not really something he partakes. That's not technically true, but it really doesn't matter for the sake of this question. Next up, from Zachary Stvan, @Zachary Stvan, I assume. How many times has the name of your main character changed throughout your project? None. Actually, never. I don't think I ever altered the name of my main character. So when I knew who the main character was supposed to be, that was the name I used from that point forward. Next up, what name did you mispronounce growing up? This is not a writing question. Jessica Grace writes, so I'm going to ignore it. Okay, there is also another question. There is also a question from @KiraDuin1, better known as Erica McCorkle. Damn, I can't speak anymore. I've talked about her in the past, but I'm going to ignore this one because it asked me to share a snippet. Anyways, still follow her because she occasionally does writing questions, but she also does a lot of cool stuff in ways she presents her own writing. So yeah, check her out. Next up, M. Rogers. I don't see the what's her tag? @M. Rogers writes. She asks, "What's the largest age difference in a romantic relationship in your books?" Actually, quite slim. My books are pretty slim on romance in general, but I'm gonna say the biggest gap in romantic relationship ages so far is about 3 years. It's just not a topic I've explored particularly deeply, so a lot of variety isn't really going to come up. From Wrestling with Words, Cameron Thompson @wrestling_words. How do you label your chapters? I give them titles. From Eukaryote @Euriskaryote. How casual is your MC with sex? I actually answered this in writing, but I'm also gonna answer it in video. Martha basically only seeks out sex in a committed relationship. That is what she finds both pragmatic and most fulfilling. Elizabeth hasn't really considered the topic that much, almost at all. And Marius, as I said, he's asexual. It's kind of more difficult. He's not sex repulsed, but his decision on who he has sex with, if he has sex at all, is kind of too tricky to actually get into. Another one from Erica McCorkle, aka @KiraDuin1. Do any of your characters engage in any suspicious nighttime activities? well, my whole work in progress could be characterized as a suspicious nighttime activity. Or should I say the focal part of the book is this kind of nighttime activity. Next up, we've got Kathleen Fox at kfox_writes. Fox with 2 X's, by the way. What's something your MC loved doing as a child? What about something they didn't like? That's actually an interesting question. I can't really say Marfa had any dislikes, but she did love exploring, going on small adventures and stuff like that. That is something I think Elizabeth also shared. Elizabeth, however, is much less sociable than Martha, so she's much likely to go through these kinds of explorations on her own. As for Marius, I'm gonna say he enjoyed testing himself, and was displeased when he was forced to impose limits on what he could test about himself. Next up, Gabriella Boba at Gabriella Boba. Tell me a material and a mood in your WAP, and I'll describe a cursed object that fits. Okay, this is a call and response one. Gonna skip over it. Another one from @DailyWriterQ. If you have a love interest. Okay, skipping this one. Another one from Wrestling with Words. What is the best part of your main character's day? Getting stuff done. Like, regardless of which main character we're talking about, that's basically the best part of the day, that they are able to get stuff done. Next up, there is one from writer 317537. I'm gonna skip over it because it's not something I've encountered. There is another question from BR Clough at BR Clough Writes, which is a prompt. Skipping over that one as well. Next up, Myrna C at Myrna0722. Does your MC enjoy going to the movie theater? Movie theaters are kind of a rarity within my setting. They do attend typical theaters from time to time. Next up, from Nicholas J. Ripley at Ripley J. Nick. Are any of your characters underdogs? Well, yeah. I could argue that the MCs are the underdogs within the current narrative, given who it is that they have to fight. Next up, Dan Rice at Dan Rice Writes. How does your MC deal with a bully? Marfa just straight up confronts a bully and says, "Get the fuck out of here," or "Get the fick out of here," because that's the word I use. So yeah, she'll just walk straight over to him and say, "You have no power over me." Elizabeth will try to outsmart him, the bully, or trick him in some way, and Marius will just try to troll any kind of bully that comes his way. Okay, next up, once again, Wrestling with Words. How is your writing going this year? It's actually going fine. Thanks for asking. Next up, from Jessica Grace Wright, aka at Jessica Grace Writes. Anyone writing fun, deconstructed fairy tales? No, not me. Another one from Nicholas J. Ripley at Ripley J. Nick. How much tragedy is in your work in progress? I'll say this counts as a spoiler, but some. Maybe 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Another one from Jessica Grace Wright at Just Grace Writes, which is let's have a game, another prompt one. Moving ahead. A reply from Scriblotta at Scriblotta. Have you ever written a side character that you like more than your protagonist? Yes, I have to say so. I talked about this while working on my debut, that my favorite character is actually Marius, who in my debut actually has a side role as an instructor for the main characters. And now in this work in progress, an alternate version of him is one of 3 main characters. Okay. Let's see. There is another prompt. I'm gonna skip over this. Another question about the love interest. Skipping over that. Actually, I could answer to that. Your MC's love interest. I'm gonna mention Helen in that because she is technically a love interest for Marius. What is her main virtue and her main vice? I'm gonna say her main virtue is just how cool and level-headed she can be. However, conversely, when she is under stress, she can become the exact opposite of that. Next up, from M. Rogers at M. Rogers Writes, do you think your book is funny? Is there room for humor in every fiction book? Well, I'm gonna say there is room for humor in every fiction book. As for whether or not my book is funny, I don't necessarily intend for it to be funny, but I did intend to include some jokes within it. Whether or not I was successful is something I will leave up to my audience to figure out. Next up, another one from Eukaryote at Euraskaryote. How likely is your MC to skip a meal? Does anyone ever notice? Marfa, if she can avoid it, will very much not skip meals. She is she's very careful with regards to how she maintains herself, and that is something that Elizabeth has also taken to heart, not just through Marfa's influence, but also through that of her father. She takes self-care very seriously. Marius, however, is quite a bit more likely to do so. He has a bit of a more chaotic lifestyle. As for whether or not anyone notices, some people might. Okay, next question. How would your MC write their book's pitch? Okay. This is something I can't really... This is perhaps something I can't really answer. Maybe Marfa would say something about how she tries to uncover a mystery. Elizabeth would perhaps write something about how it is that she became reborn, something like that. And Marius would tell the story of this is what he is fighting for. Yeah, that's it. Another one from Kira Dewin1, aka Erica McCorkle. Do you have any characters associated with the moon or moon imagery, or nocturnal race of people? Well, there is one character who I more or less associate with with night, or the duality between light and darkness, and that is actually Helen. Her full name is Helen Nocte, which is kind of a play on both light and darkness. But other characters, not really, or not directly. There is also Manfred Zamza, who is one of the Great Eight, aka the Lord of Shade. But again, that's not really directly moon or nocturnal. It's more just kind of generic light and dark. Next up, from Michael Seipold at MP Seipold. Have you ever changed the planned ending of your story while you're in the middle of writing it? No. I plot quite extensively, so when I start writing, I know exactly how the story is going to end. I might add some embellishment based on how the actual writing unfolds, but the general premise of the ending stays exactly the same. Another one from M. Rogers. If you've written more than one book, which I think is the case right now, how are they different and how are they similar? Well, I follow some of the same characters. They are written more or less within the same genre, but I'll say the setting and the stakes are quite different. Next up, one from Quen D. Yale at The Point Fan. Have you ever put something small in your story that you didn't particularly like, but felt like it was necessary to the story / you couldn't imagine it any other way? Can't say I have, no. Another question from Lara Rouse at Lara Rouse Writes. Do you know what all of your characters want? Yes. More or less. Another one from Michael Seipold at MP Seipold. what's the difference between a writer and an author? I think a writer is someone who puts anything to paper, and an author is someone who has published things out there. Another prompt from BR Cloth, not answering that. Another prompt. Oh, okay. Ripley J. Nick, at Ripley J. Nick, Nicola J. Ripley. What's the love interest in your story like? Well, I think I've already mentioned Ellen Notre. She is ambitious, she is playful, and she knows how to strike a balance between being focused and finding the joy in her life. So that's kind of where I am with her. She knows how to strike the balance between playful and ambitious, and that comes through in everything she does. How she relates to people, how she uses magic, how she interacts with the system society places around her. Next up, one from Radian Murphy, at Radian Murphy. I started, so I'll finish. In your opinion, how short is too short for a chapter? I don't know. Maybe less. If it's less than 1,000 words, maybe it's too short for a chapter. That's my opinion. And yeah, that was it. Those were the questions I went through. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, then please leave a like. Maybe even share this video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If there is anything you'd like to add to this video, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My book, Heir to the Empire Next Generation, is available at most major book retailers under a master link in the description down below. Right past all of my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to do so. I also have a Patreon in case you want to support me more directly. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.